Hi there, it's Leslie. I get this question all the time. What does fascia look like? What does it do? Um, should I foam roll every day? Should I get massages, etc.? And the answer is yes. And it also depends on your tolerance to discomfort and or pain. We're all wired differently, but yet so similarly. And with that being said, what I like to do is just give you an example of a grapefruit. Because honestly, a grapefruit looks very similar to that of human tissue, obviously, but it won't bleed like we do. But if we were to just make like a little cut here into our grapefruit, and if we pulled back the skin, what you're going to notice here, okay, is that it's pretty thick and dense. Well, it's similar to different parts of our body, like lumbothoracic fascia, which is our back. So we've got this big, you know, structure of fascia in our low back. And there's a reason for that. It's supportive, if that makes sense. Same thing as your IT band and different parts of our body. The fascia is denser, if you will. It's also more sensitive in certain areas of our body, like our feet and our hands. So when we think about rolling out fascia, etc., when it's done gently and not pounding on it, when people say, "Oh yeah, I gotta break up my fascia," at the end of the day, we don't want to visualize this thing of breaking it up. What we want to think about is restructuring it because fascia is ever changing. So even if we start to kind of peel back a little bit here into another layer, and this grapefruit's not being too terribly cooperative, but there we go. So again, as we kind of look here, if you will, if this was basically our muscle tissue lying under our fascia, then for all intents and purposes, this is a little bit thinner. So if you were to, for example, grab the top of your hand and you're going to notice and pinch it, the the tissue here is pretty thin, and there's a reason for it. So it allows manipulation of your joints and your muscles and your tendons and ligaments. But then when you actually pinch the bottom of the hand, you're going to notice that it's actually more sensitive, similar to that of your feet. So these receptors in our fascia, for all intents and purposes, are constantly ever changing and adapting, especially our feet, to the surfaces that are stimulating those neuroreceptors to find better balance, to find, more elasticity as we move, as we walk. And then the other thing about fascia that's so fascinating is that even cutting a grapefruit in half and splitting it, essentially, as you can see, there's all these little sections, if you will, of in between the grapefruit of the pulp of the grapefruit is essentially, but yet, it's not falling out. So same thing as our muscle tissue. If indeed we were to, if we cut ourselves, we will bleed, but it's not as though all the tissue comes, spilling out. So the fascia surrounds all the other tissues in the body. It provides elasticity. While our muscles produce force, our fascia allows for, again, that elasticity, that rebound, if you will, like a rubber band. If you were to put a rubber band in a freezer and pull it, it would snap. If you put a rubber band in a warm environment, it's elastic. So the more that we can think about training our fascia for function and flexibility, it's going to provide better mobility essentially in our joints. So when we think about rethink the idea of breaking down tissue versus restructuring it. So in other words, again, after you've had a massage, think about how you feel. You feel more relaxed and you feel better after having, everything being restructured. So the main takeaway here is make sure that motion is lotion, and that truly the better you stay hydrated, the better it is for your fascia. When we're dehydrated, we have lack of movement. When we're hydrated, again, we have more elasticity in this human body that is about 70% water. So once again, that's just a simple little, example of the dynamics of our fascia. If you have an opportunity, the fuzz, Dr. Gil Headley, great video to watch. The other one is Strolling Under the Skin, where you actually do get to see the restructuring of tissue. So these are just a couple of, recommendations that I have, because again, the more that we can sort of have a brief understanding of the complexity of our body, the greater that we can become as movement specialists, or really understanding, this thing called pain. And when I hear, trainers say, yeah, go to the point of pain, or no pain, no gain, squeeze, tuck, tighten. At the end of the day, if we're restructuring that tissue in a negative way, then we're going to pay the consequences. That can lead us to chronic to acute injuries. So again, move authentically, feel good in your bodies. We're here for a short time in this house, so why not take care of it? I'm Leslie Bender, and this is just a little tip for the day of kind of a better understanding of the role of your fascia.